Well, folks, I think it's pretty clear where Brandon Beane stands on the contract extensions of James Cook and Christian Benford. Over the weekend, or I believe it was Friday, Beane ended up joining the Fitz and Wit podcast. And one of the questions, which I would say the vast majority of the episode was focused on the Josh Allen extension, a lot of questions pertaining and reflecting back on previous draft classes. But Fitz did sneak in a question asking, hey, what about James Cook? What about Christian Benford? Are they on the radar for potential contract extensions? Now, normally when questions are brought to the ether, especially in front of a GM and or anybody that works in a front office in the first place, you're always going to get a sense of coach speak, answering but not really answering. But I think that we can make a pretty detailed assumption of where Brandon Beane is with all of these potential extensions, exclusively with Benford, exclusively with James Cook. And he said this specifically, and here you go. We definitely had dialogue with those guys. That's probably as far as I would take it. Now, it is just one sentence, but I believe that it speaks volumes as into Brandon Beane's priorities this offseason. I think what he means by this is you're going to have to be patient. And more than likely, neither of them are going to be receiving extensions this offseason. And folks, on this channel, we have been saying this over and over and over again, right? That we were going to have to make some difficult decisions going into this offseason because we had several players that were due contract extensions, right? You had Khalil Shakir, you had Bernard, you had Gregory Rousseau. Some of these players were locked down with extensions because it would give us immediate cap relief to help us become cap compliant. And then others, it was just super cheap to do so. Like the Terrell Bernard contract extension did not hurt us in the slightest. He's not calling for a contract like Christian Benford, which according to Spot Track right now is a bit closer to around $22, $23 million. I don't think this is the end of the world. I do not believe that either of these players will be receiving their extension this offseason. But folks, listen, there is nothing to worry about because both of them are still under contract for the 2025 season. And I feel like a lot of people are freaking out. They're like, oh my God, no contract extension for James Cook, no contract extension for Christian Benford. This is not something that a lot of players, right, or a lot of fan bases have to go through. This is such a regular occurrence across the NFL where you're seeing a lot of your high caliber talent play the entirety of their rookie contract prior to getting a deal and or prior to hitting free agency. Many are concerned that James Cook is going to hold out. And I can tell you this. I don't know what is going through his mind. I don't believe that I have the concrete answers of a prediction of whether or not that he would. But from an outside perspective, I don't think it's very reasonable for him to hold out, right? While he is on his rookie contract, folks, I'd say he's older. He's 25. He's 26 years old. He has only ever had a rookie contract under his belt. And granted, it's still a couple of $1 million, right? I don't think that it would behoove James Cook to sit out an entire year where he is truly looking for a life-changing sort of contract for him and his family. Largely, I am sure that he has already ended up making investments that align with his overall pay schedule. And if James Cook does not play, he does not get paid. He does not have any sort of crazy guarantees. All of his money that he has made has largely been due to escalators that have been earned based off of production. Financially, it makes no sense for him to sit out in 2025. It really, really doesn't, right? So I think when it comes into James Cook, we might see a couple of Stefon Diggs-like sit-outs, right? Like 2 years ago or like 1 year ago when we ended up seeing Stefon Diggs not participate in mandatory minicamp, for example. Or maybe James Cook might miss out on a couple of training camp days. But it doesn't make sense financially for a player that has no money to fall back on, that does not already have a contract that can still pay for his day-to-day expenses. And he's certainly not going to sit out a year where he could potentially be auditioning for the Buffalo Bills to give him a contract extension after the 2025 season and or a new team in free agency. So I don't think that Buffalo is going to extend James Cook this offseason. I think he's going to play this year. He's going to have a hell of a season because this is going to be his audition for whatever team ends up picking him up next year. Maybe it is the Buffalo Bills. Maybe it's not. So nothing to worry there. And then when it comes into Christian Benford, I really haven't seen a lot of social media activity from this player. And the only offseason news that I have seen from Christian Benford so far is that he is a children's book writer. All right. Yeah. He wrote a children's book, which is absolutely insane. I should probably do a stream where I read this. All right. But I think my concern with Christian Benford is that his price tag is going to be crazy in 2026. Right. Because we're seeing some of these corners who, in my opinion, I believe Christian Benford is better than. Like, for example, J.C. Horn is probably the best example of corners that I would say are nowhere near as good as Christian Benford, and he got $30 million. And SpotTrack has him at about $22 million as far as a market valuation. And based off of the corner market as it continues to grow year after year, say that Christian Benford goes out there and plays Christian Benford ball next year, we're going to be looking at about a $35 million a year type contract for that young man. But I'm pretty convinced that this Buffalo Bills team will be able to make it work because next year we really don't have a lot of pending free agents. Have Connor McGovern, who I think is going to be an extension candidate, maybe David Edwards, but I do think that we'll be able to address that in the draft for this year or even the following. So I think we could get it done. It all came down to the Buffalo Bills operating with a very limited cap space this year and being confident that, say that James Cook and Christian Benford are a part of the future plans. It's just going to have to be something that we address next offseason. I'm not saying that one of these two or both of them are not going to receive an extension later on, like prior to training camp. But my overall thought process at this point is that I think we've seen the last contract extension for any player whatsoever. And Cook and Benford are just going to have to play with their final year of said rookie contract, which is not out of the realm of like normality. It happens each and every single time. So, folks, if you are tuning in to the replay of this episode, this is when I transition over to my live chat. We have been building a great live chat community over on this channel for the past couple of years. So if you ever want to be a part of this, I highly recommend that when you subscribe to this channel, you also turn on bell notifications. So that way you are notified each and every single time that I go live. And you could be a part of this Q&A segment that I have for each and every single show. My live chat controls the rest of this stream, which is something to get super excited about. I did need to give a giant shout out to our proud sponsor today, and that just so happens to be William Mattar Law Offices, folks. If you were ever hurt in a car, you better call William Mattar. I would not wish a car accident on anybody, but say, for example, you ever find yourself in that unfortunate scenario, you have to call William Mattar and make sure that you have the appropriate representation. He is the man. Love working with this guy, and I promise you, you will not regret it. All right? Shout out to everybody in the chat already. Let's see what people have to say. I am kind of freaking out, and these are two of our best players. If Cook becomes a diva like his brother, I would get the most value for him. So here's the deal, Jose, right? I see a lot of people freaking out about Christian Benford and James Cook not getting their extension this year. I do want to remind everybody that they are still under contract with this team, right? They are still under contract. So I don't think that it would behoove Cook to sit out for a year. Like I said, he has not had a large contract in the past. He was a second-round pick before, and he's earned, I'd say, solid amount of money for a second-round pick by itself, but he just doesn't have enough cash to like rely on, in my opinion, especially based off of the investments that I assume that he has already made. And plus, it would make zero sense for him to sit out this year entirely for the entire season. He's already 26 years old, right? He's 25, 26 years old. take a full year off of football that is only destroying your value next year for a possible Buffalo Bills contract extension and or a free agency bid next year. So I don't think that it makes sense financially. I'm not saying that it won't be done, because look at what Le'Veon Bell did. Like, that dude ended up sitting out for an entire year, and he ended up getting a crazy bag, and he ended up fizzling out once he became a New York Jet. Surprise, surprise. But I think that there's enough horror stories of running backs that were in a similar situation to him a couple of years ago, where worst case scenario, I have a feeling that James Cook is probably going to sit out for mandatory minicamp, and the whole world is going to start freaking out. And then maybe he'll miss a couple of practices here and there for training camp, but he'll be there for week 1. And if not, I mean, like I said, guys, listen, Ray Davis made the most out of his opportunities, and so did Ty Johnson. Who knows what's going on there? But I have no fear that James Cook is going to not play in 2024. He is under contract. He's set to make about $4 million in his final year of his rookie deal. And say, for example, that he doesn't play, he does not receive that money. So I'm not necessarily upset about that. Benford will get done around August. We can let Cook play out or $10 to $12 million. See, I feel like Benford for me is a bit more of a priority, because might as well lock this guy down as the market is low. Like, we're seeing JC Horn go for $30 million. And if we see JC Horn go for $30 million, then I think that's likely what I'd say Christian Benford deserves. And sure, he had a couple of untimely injuries. And so really almost to a point where people say that he's injury prone, but like realistically, like he's only missed like 1 or 2 games max at any given point during his career, of course, right outside of his rookie season. And unfortunately, those 2 games that he ultimately ended up missing were in the playoffs, and we felt his absence crazy. But I wouldn't label him injury prone, right? Letting Cook walk, and so I would be able to get over, but please not Benford. That would make me sick to my stomach. So here's the deal. Like I said, we have him for 1 more year, and maybe we end up getting a deal done with this young man prior to training camp. But regardless, I don't see either of these two sitting down. John Mitchell. Good morning, Dan. Good morning, John. Hope all is well, man. Why is Asante Samuel Jr. still a free agent? Carvin Joseph. So I'm going to tell you what, man. Listen, as fans, like, we only see surface level stuff. Like, we look at Asante Samuel Jr. and we see some guy that has a lot of promise, like, love what he does in coverage. And we're like, why in the hell is this young man? He's 25 years old. He still doesn't have a deal. My thoughts here have to do with the fact that when it comes down into the physical aspects, like where he actually goes and gets looked at by trainers and doctors, they're seeing massive red flags. That is my only gut situation there. Like, that is my gut feeling, is that when he is going and talking to several teams, all of the team doctors are saying, like, this is a bit of a red flag. I think that this is not worth the investment. That's why I think that he's still out there. He will be signed, but it's just a matter of when. I see some mock drafts that had Buffalo selecting Grant at 30 and Buffalo trading up to the high 40s to draft Nick. What do you think? A Nick Emenwari trade up in the second. Damn, man. It's funny because once you end up getting into the 20s of the first round and early in the second, so many players are interchangeable. Like, so many mock drafts, I am seeing Amos go in the first and the second. Same thing with Emenwari. I have seen Emenwari go as high as 21. I have seen Emenwari go as low as 50. So for me, I would be fine with a Kenneth Grant at 30 because, as many of you know, he is my number 1 draft selection for this Buffalo Bills team right now. And then as far as the CB2, I'm fine with Amos. I'm fine with the Zaire Thomas. Fine with Darian Porter, like one of the two. It just depends on where Brandon Beane's head is at. Let's not freak out. We are going to be an air raid team this year. Jonas is saying, hypothetically speaking, with the Cook drama, Hampton's available. Would you jump at 30? Would you jump or another running back there? I would not go high for a running back position. I really wouldn't, especially with all the promise that we saw from Ray Davis. And Ray Davis really didn't get a lot of opportunities. And that's very much a Buffalo Bills way of implementing a young player. So many players on this roster have had significant year 2 jumps, right? Like Cook, for example, last year he balled out, right? Like double-digit touchdowns. Prior to that, he had like 2 touchdowns a season, maybe 3. So don't sleep on Ray Davis. Solid back that I think has all of the opportunity in the world of becoming an RB1 and or somebody that could really take a massive snap share. But say that we do go running back, like this class is so deep. Nah, I am not going to have a running back pick that early, especially with how high the class is, and especially with all the defensive needs that are still on the table. If Cook listens to his brother, he will kill his career. I honestly don't believe that he is going to. Again, I do think that these are two different like sort of scenarios here. Because again, like Cook doesn't have the same amount of money that he would have been able to fall back on that his brother did. He is only going off of a second-round rookie contract. He's due $4 million this year. If he does not play, he does not earn a single penny, and he is in turn decreasing his value significantly. He knows how the NFL looks at running backs. He's not going to sit out a full season, not get paid a single dollar at all, and then think that he's going to get anywhere close to $15 million in 2026 with taking a full year off of football, especially being at his age. So he's probably still wondering, like, hey, like, where's my extension? But again, he's going to have to wait till next offseason, at least from what I'm seeing from Brandon Beane. And so many of you know that I'm fine with paying James Cook, but what I am doing is simply trying to tell the world how I feel that Brandon Beane is looking at the situation. With the Cook drama, if Hampton is there, would you jump? Already answered that one. Chaz, yeah, sorry about that spelling, but you got it, Dan. Chaz, you're the man, dude. What's up, Chaz? Hope all is well. Jared, I think health is the biggest concern for Benford. That being said, it is a shame that it was during the worst possible moments of our season, a legit shutdown corner. Yeah, right? Like, it's weird because people are putting the label that he is injury prone. And when I look at injury prone, or when I look at a player and that label is attached to them, I have to see it and be like, okay, like this guy is regularly missing 6 games in a row each and every single season, 7 or 8 games in a row. He's being put on IR almost every other year. And Benford just decides to get hurt during the playoffs when we need him the most, right? So as far as all the games that he has been healthy and able to play his entire career over in Buffalo, I wouldn't put him as injury prone. It's just, he just picks the absolute worst games to get it done. I think 4 years, $45 million would be a great deal for Cook, plus $5 million in incentives. Let me see. 20, 30, 40. Okay. So about 11 and a half. I'm fine with that. I am not worried about Cook getting signed because I don't think that we will even re-sign him. But Benford concerns me, not because we won't re-sign him, but because of the costs that it will take to do so. He's probably going to be closer. He's probably going to be closer to around 35 million annual. Say that we wait until next year. And it's not so scary because, like we said, right? This NFL cap is on average increasing about $30 million each and every single season. And next year, like when you look at our soon-to-be unrestricted free agents, not a lot of players, right? Like have Connor McGovern. You have, I believe it's Edwards as well. But then again, I feel like we could find a left guard right in the draft. So no issue there. But I feel like it won't break the bank as bad as we think that it will. I am okay with the Bills trading up and getting their guy. I do not want Grant. How could you not like Grant, Mikey? No, I get it. Hey, man, listen, it's different strokes for different folks. I totally get it. I think that Grant's probably one of the best scheme fits there. And so I'm fine with Derek Harmon as well at the defensive tackle position. But interior help, I think, is really the missing piece. I think we should get Benford done as soon as possible before any other corners keep getting paid. And as for Asante Samuel Jr. He doesn't like to tackle. McDermott won't go for that. He is not a good tackler, that is for sure. I think Amos, but if Johnson drops to the Bills, definitely him or the Notre Dame corner. He's more of a man guy. Want early second for Landon Jackson. He is one of my favorite players in the draft. Want an early second for Landon Jackson. He was a stud, dude. He was an absolute stud at the Senior Bowl. I see it on Built in Buffalo that teams are interested in Diggs are Bills, Jets, Pats. Your thoughts? I hope that that's just a rumor. And so I saw that as well. See, I wouldn't be interested. I do think that that would just be a waste of money because I know that we're seeing all these videos of him like running at full speed. He should be ready by week 1. Like, that's bullshit. Like, dude's not going to be ready till week 6, week 7. Right. So no point into spending money on a guy that, first off, we ended up walking away from. We didn't want Diggs on this roster so bad that we put ourselves in cap hell last offseason. We took on so much dead money just to get Diggs off of this roster. We paid Diggs to play for a different team. That is how bad we didn't want him on this roster. So it sounds like that he was just not good for the locker room. There's probably still a lot of bad blood with him and this overall like organization. I would not be thrilled with this move. I hope it's the New England Patriots. I hope it is the New England Patriots. Bakari, Grant would take our D-line to another level, makes everybody better. It sucks that we have a good running back room here because the running back class is like a gold mine in this year's draft. And that question came in from Fakari and or a statement. Yeah, most definitely. I wouldn't like want to address the running back position, not unless it was like rolling the dice on a 5th round pick. It's that deep, folks. There are so many running back prospects late in the draft that we can go crazy. We have Carvin Joseph coming in with a question. He says, do you see us drafting a speedy wide receiver in the 3rd and or the 4th round? Yeah, so I'll tell you what, there are several prospects that I have fallen in love with that I think could really be an outside X day 1 contributor for us. So number 1 is my favorite. This is Jalen Royals. He's out of Utah State. I would love if he somehow fell to us. Now, obviously, we would need to find a way to get into the 3rd round, whether or not that is packaging our 4th and 5ths to squeeze up into the 3rd somehow. But that's where he is likely going to be. I would be fine with an Isaiah Bond as well. And as many of you know, I put out a video / a stream last week where I identified one wide receiver sleeper that I have absolutely fallen in love with. Like, he's the best route runner I have seen out of this draft. He has some of the great, I'd say the best separation I have seen out of anybody in the class, and he's still projected to go in the 4th and or the 5th round, and that's Kyle Williams. Kyle Williams out of Washington State. In my opinion, he is a prime Stefon Diggs. So say, for example, we walk away with either of those 3 wide receivers, I am going to be absolutely thrilled. Wrists up, Dan. Happy Monday. How much traction, and this is from Bills Mafia J718, by the way. How much traction does this Bills team, considering a Diggs reunion, have? I hope none. If they have money to sign anyone, it should be Asante Samuel Jr. I am not entirely convinced that that rumor has any weight to it. So I think originally where that news broke was from a Twitter account called NFL Rumors. And I'm not particularly sure where they get their sources. It is a larger account, but they never really list a credible source behind it, right? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I saw the tweet. I am very confused as into why Brandon Beane and or this front office would be interested in bringing him in the first place. Again, like I have said, we are looking at a player that Buffalo is so desperate to get off of our roster. We paid another team. We paid Stefon Diggs to play for a different team in 2024. So it does not make any sense whatsoever. Now, we do only have about 4 wide receivers that are capable of starting and being a contributor to our offense, not special teams included. I think Laviska Shenault will make this team, but he's going to be our kick returner / punt returner. He will be listed as a wide receiver. So theoretically, we need one more wide receiver on this team. And I think that we are going to address that in this upcoming NFL draft. I don't really see much of a point of signing Stefon Diggs. Dalvin did the right thing when he was on the Vikings. Ray Davis will get more snaps and replace Cook. And also remember, folks, see, I feel like when we see all of this extension talk about James Cook and Christian Benford, it's very easy for everyone to think that, oh man, he's not going to be on this team this year. He is. Both Benford and James Cook are under contract their final years of their rookie deal in 2025. They will be on this roster and they will play. Now, they could go out and say, oh, no, and so I'm going to sit out. But why would they when their entire earnings are based off of them playing for the entire year and they are messing up their opportunity to audition for a contract after that expires? So we'll see. Mike Green, I draft you. Mike Green, man. Dude, I'll tell you what, he is a polarizing prospect. Some people love that guy. Some people hate that guy. I don't know. Me, I am a bit more entertained into us going interior defensive line earlier. I like that the Bills offseason has obvious needs. A big defensive interior, CB2, speedy receiver, and probably another safety to replace Rapp in the future. Safety is an interesting topic because we have to look at where our roster currently stands, right? Rapp is on the final year of his deal. You have Damar Hamlin, who is also on the final year of his deal. And I think that Damar was brought in for a backup / special teams contributor. So we have two safeties that are pending free agents in 2026. So a safety might be something that we draft a bit earlier than people are already discussing. Interesting. Until I see Cook backwards hurdle a dude, then we pay him $15 million. If Bills management doesn't agree on the dollars that Cook and Benford's teams are demanding, let them walk. And the Chiefs have been letting good players go all the time. It's what good teams do. I mean, yeah, right? Like last year, I feel was the perfect example of it doesn't really matter what roster is surrounded with Josh Allen. Like we are always going to be wildly competitive. We are always a perennial playoff team. And like I said, with the Kansas City Chiefs, they have done the exact same thing every single year. They have walked away from solid players and just ultimately ended up bringing in a bunch of bargain bin, like free agents, and drafting relatively well. This draft class this year for Buffalo is wildly important. Massively imperative for the success of this team. We have John Mitchell coming in and saying James Cook should get an $8 to $9 million contract. That should be a good running back contract for your fourth year in the league. Will he accept it? Anyone but Grant. Dan puts up more reps of 225 than Grant did. Oh, man. How many reps did he do? It's how many reps did he do? Now I'm curious. All right, Courtney Barley. What's up, Dan? And did he hear about anything on Asante Samuel Jr. from the Chargers? No, but say that I'm a gambling man and say that I have to give my take on why he is still yet to be signed has to do with the fact that team doctors and trainers must be noticing some significant red flags when it comes into his previous injury. That's the only thing that makes sense. Some people could point out the fact that he's not the best tackler, but to be completely honest with you, coverage is the most important thing that you need from a DB for the most part. As long as you have solid linebackers and as long as your defensive line is getting pressure in the first place, most teams aren't not going to sign a corner because he's going to have like 3 or 4 missed tackles each and every single year, 6 or 7 missed tackles here and there. A lot of the times you need to look at the upside from a specific player and be like, okay, he's an absolute dog in coverage. He's going to give us about 6 or 7 missed tackles a year, though. That's something I'm willing to roll the dice on. So I don't think that it has to do with his lack of ability in the tackling department. Probably has to do with his injury. He's probably not nearly as recovered as we thought initially. Draft corners, sign Slay for mentorship, and keep it going. XO put, Broke my heart when I saw Elam enter the AFC Championship game. Elam, man, broke my heart too. And do you see us going after Keenan Allen? We have Mako Morales coming in with a great question here. So like I said, man, we probably have 5 wide receivers that have locked down a position for the upcoming 53-man roster in 2025. You have Keon Coleman, you have Khalil Shakir, you have Curtis Samuel and Joshua Palmer, and then add Laviska Shenault, but he's just going to be listed as a wide receiver. He's largely going to be our kick returner and punt returner, not unless Cordington beats him out. So either Shenault/Cordington will be that 5th wide receiver. And Buffalo typically runs with 6 wide receivers in general, right? In my opinion, I think that we're focusing on the draft for that 6th spot. I really, really do. So I do not see any more wide receiver free agency acquisitions. Even if there is, it would be crazy. Would be absolutely crazy if that was the case. Draft wide receiver only. Susu just came in. Thank you so much. 17 doll hairs. I appreciate you, Susu. Hope all is well down in New Zealand. Damn. Hey, Dan, I love your channel. Just a question, though. What would you consider your top 5 picks going into the draft? And also, you guys have a bright future ahead. Keep grinding and believing. Susu, listen, I appreciate the love here. So I think that we're looking at a draft board for me. And a draft board for me are only players that I think we have a realistic shot of going to get. And that's by slightly trading up into the 20s, maybe even the high teens. And then what would be like reasonable to suggest that pick overall 30. So here's how I'm going to do it. So the first 2 players are players that I think the Buffalo Bills need to trade up for. And the first 2 players that are on my board that will be gone by 30. So we would need to actually trade up for both of these gentlemen. Number 1 corner, Will Johnson out of Michigan. I think that Jahdae Barron will be the first corner to be taken off of the board. He'll go top 10. I think that Will Johnson will fall into the late teens / the early 20s. I would love Will Johnson to be opposite of Christian Benford in 2025. He is a scheme fit for this defense, and I think he'd be a dog. He's going to be one of the greats. He really is. He is such an incredible corner and fits this zone scheme like a glove. Number 2, I think we would have to slightly trade up for this player as well, and that would be a Matthew Golden. Y'all have heard me say that I love Jalen Royals, I love Kyle Williams, I love Isaiah Bond, but say that you really want a speedster on the outside, someone that's a great route runner, has great hands. Matthew Golden is that dude. So those are the 2 players that I think realistically we could trade up for, and those are the first 2 guys in my board. Number 3, I'm going to have to go with Kenneth Grant. Solid interior defender, gets solid pressure. He's a run stuffer. Fantastic. Bolster up that defensive line. So far, so we have Will Johnson, CB2, then Matthew Golden, but we can only trade up for those 2 players. 3 is Kenneth Grant for me. Grant / Derek Harmon. So I'll put them both at number 3 because those are interchangeable and I'd be fine with either of those guys. Number 4 for me, and this would probably be more of like a pick 30 sort of situation, and so would Derek Harmon / Grant, would be Nick, so the Emanwari. I would love Emanwari's safety out of South Carolina. He's like a Kyle Hamilton in my eyes. I think that he would be incredible in coverage for this team. I'm super happy with the value of that pick. Say that he falls to 30 by itself. And then 5 for me. Man, 5, this is pretty interesting here. 5, I would go Trey Amos. Trey Amos is probably my 5th selection. So say that we walk away with one of those 5 players in the first round, Susu. I am a happy, happy man. Defense is what has failed Josh Allen, and they really need to focus on that more than offense, as we prove this year. I agree. Jay Tang is coming in with a question. And do you think we re-sign Poyer as a depth piece / a mentor? So I look at the roster right now when it comes into safety. You have Taylor Rapp and you have Cole Bishop, have Damar Hamlin, who's going to be a backup / special teams contributor. You have Cam Lewis as well, who's like our Swiss Army knife. He could play corner. He could also play safety if needed. I don't think so. So I feel like we'd probably go to the draft for that. And plus, like, don't sleep on Taylor Rapp, of course, having that role as well, because he's a seasoned vet and he's going into year 3 of this team. Ingram had 3 interceptions in a game and they went with Elam. I mean, hey, maybe it's Jamarcus Ingram that steps up. We have Drew. He's coming in with a statement. And obviously it matters, but we don't have the offense we have with Ray Davis at RB1, and he will cost much more next year than this year unless we tag him. So I feel like that's left to be unseen, because Ray Davis really didn't have a lot of snaps. And with those limited snaps, he played pretty well. But then again, right? So we have nothing to worry about because James Cook is still under contract, and say that he decides to hold out, then he's not getting paid a penny of the $4 million in which that he is due this upcoming season. And do you see the Browns are looking to get Brandon Ayuk to possibly get a wide receiver 1 for Shedeur Sanders? It's so weird when it comes into like all of this draft speculation, because prior to me hopping on stream, I saw news that it's almost set in stone that Cleveland is targeting Abdul Carter with the 2nd overall pick if Cam Ward is unavailable. I did see Brandon Ayuk is potentially going to the Browns, and or the Browns are interested in sort of acquiring him in a trade. Who knows, man? It's draft season and we are in speculation time over on the channel, and I couldn't be happier. Defensive tackle first pick if best available, LYN. Yeah, so I would agree with you there. But say, for example, that so the defensive tackles that I have first round grades on that are realistic of falling to us at 30 is Kenneth Grant and Derek Harmon, right? If both of those dudes are gone, then I'd rather go to the next position of need. And then I'd rather go with CB2. Because as much as I love Darius Alexander, as much as I love a Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State, this defensive class or this defensive tackle class is deep, I would say, all the way until the early 3rd. So I wouldn't want to spend a 30th overall pick, say that Grant and or Harmon, so we're off the board. That way, would much rather go for a Trey Amos, and then I would much rather like draft. So with the Darius Alexanders and also with the Tyleik Williams of the world, if possible. If not Golden, what about Luther Burden? I've seen a couple of guys hype him up, so I feel like he's predominantly out of the slot. Like some players or like some teams and some analysts think that he could transition over into a full-time X sort of guy. I just don't really see him being a scheme fit for us. But hey, who knows? Who knows, man? Seth is coming in with a question. Seth is saying, will they still play even if they don't get extended, or will they just sit out? So here's my theory. So we don't even know, right? But what I want to do is think about this objectively and put myself in their shoes and think about this as logically as possible. For both of them, right? Especially with James Cook, or starting off with James Cook. He's 25 years old. He's about to be 26. So that's something to put out there, right? He is looking for a long-term contract. Say that he doesn't get one, then he will not receive a penny at all, will not be paid, have zero income in 2025 at all. He's due $4 million. He's due $4 million, plus even more escalators that he could hit and even more incentives that he could hit. So he could make significantly more. He could forego getting paid that amount of money, and he could also sit out a full year where it's going to hurt his stock for any team that would be interested in signing him in free agency in 2026. So it really doesn't make sense for him to sit out. Maybe he'll sit out for like a mini camp or something like that. Like maybe he'll sit out for like half of training camp or something, but it doesn't really make sense for him to do so. If Grant is taken and Nolan is in there, would you take him? I like Walter Nolan. I just don't think he's much of a scheme fit for us. That's just my thought. due to Cook not getting an extension, I think that Bean and McDermott really believe in Ray Davis / Ty Johnson combination. Deshaun Santiago. So I'll tell you what, man. I feel like it's not that they believe in Ray Davis and Ty Johnson, but it's more so that they believe in Cromer's offensive line. Because I think we all understand that 70% of running back production has to do with offensive line, right? We saw Saquon Barkley almost break Eric Dickerson's record in 2025, having the best season he has had in years, right? And we were wondering why he didn't even sniff that while he was with the New York Giants, largely due to the fact that his offensive line was absolutely god awful. Saquon is so talented that he was still able to put up several 1,000-yard seasons. But the fact that he was able to almost beat that record this year goes to show you 75% to 80% of all running back success has to do with the blocking scheme from your offensive line from a personnel standpoint. So I think that it's more so of the Buffalo Bills just saying, look, bro, like we have dogs in the trenches, and that's how it's going to be. Jay is saying, Dan, if James Pierce Jr. somehow falls to 30 due to his character concerns, would you be open to taking him? I wouldn't even say anything about his character concerns. I'm not high on that prospect at all. It's just because he ran like a 4.4 40 that's supposed to impress me, like at a defensive end sort of thing. He's successful. He's been successful, but he doesn't really necessarily live up right to the size profile of a successful defensive end. He has been defying the odds, but I'm good. Yeah, I'm good on him. He was not one of my favorite edge rusher. He's not one of my favorite prospects. I don't want this to happen, but if James Cook is on the trade block, what is his best value? See, the thing is, like, what's the point of trading him now, right? Because, like, with free agency, it's done. Like, yeah, like, we could trade him to, like, perhaps, like, move up a little bit, but, like, so do we really think that us walking away with him is going to allow us to trade up and get into, like, 15 or 13 or 12? Probably not, right? Like, maybe a James Cook in one of our second rounds or a James Cook in a fourth or a James Cook in 2/5, like maybe could help us get up to the third. But I probably wouldn't be the biggest fan of that. That's just me. Jay, if we don't extend / franchise tag Cook next year, we should get a comp pick right. We should, in theory, right? Should. So with each and every single unsigned free agent or unsigned unrestricted free agent, you do ultimately end up getting comp picks. I don't see the Buffalo Bills leveraging the franchise tag, right? Like Brandon Beane has never used the franchise tag ever. Last player that we have ever used the franchise tag on was Cordy Glenn. And that was back in 2016, 15, maybe one of the two. So this team really just doesn't use the franchise tag. And so do you like Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame? Dude is pretty good. We have AD 23. He's a stud. He really, really is, but he's more of a man corner. And I don't necessarily see him as a scheme fit for the Buffalo Bills. As far as best scheme fits, as far as / with that CB2 need for Buffalo. So Will Johnson is an absolute dream. So when it comes into a scheme fit, he is up there. Then Trey Amos is definitely a scheme fit for this team. And same thing with Azareye'h Thomas. So with all three of those guys would be absolutely incredible when it comes into a scheme fit, if you will. Susu came in with another super chat. Thank you, Susu. I appreciate that. Dan, and the NFL right now is complete BS. And they have been screwing you guys in the playoffs because they don't want you guys making the Super Bowl and potentially winning it. You guys deserve better, bro. 100%. Susu, listen, man. Listen, when it comes into winning a Super Bowl, so it requires a hell of a lot of talent and even more luck, right? Because when I look at the Buffalo Bills and I try to reflect back on some of our like recent playoff losses, a lot of it has to do with us hitting the injury bug at the absolute worst time, right? And it always has to be when Christian Benford is out with something, which really pisses me off. And or like we were without Bernard one year too. So winning a Super Bowl is a lot more than just talent. of course, you need a little bit of luck and that your team can somehow, some way stay as healthy as humanly possible. Dexy Gaming, Dan, my Bills mock draft. Ooh, talk to me. He says, Derek Harmon in the first, have Darian Porter, who was a former wide receiver, have Omar Norman Lott, who I think is a sleeper at the defensive tackle position. I would be thrilled with this. Billy Bowman, he is a safety out of Oklahoma. He excels in coverage. I'm pretty happy there. David Walker, Kyle Williams. Okay. Willie Lampkin. Okay. North Carolina offensive lineman. I'm fine with that. He double dips at the corner position at O'Donnell Fortune. You have Keandre Lambert Smith, Chamari Dyke, and Sean Dolak, who a lot of people are hoping for one of those. We could use some man corners so we can quit getting shit on with the zone in big games. See, the problem is, so we don't have the personnel really to run man coverage, right? Say that we wanted to be a predominantly man, like sort of defense when it comes into coverage. Like we would need to like walk away with almost all of our secondary personnel because nobody's fast in our secondary. 0 people are really fast in our secondary. Like most of them run like 4.4s, 4.5s. Like we really don't have a player that's like speedy, right? It's just zone. So I feel like the Buffalo Bills are probably going to make that happen. Is Kyle Williams just a buzzword for people who mock nowadays? Matt, let me tell you what, my friend. Listen, look into wide receiver Kyle Williams. He, in my opinion, is the best route runner in this draft. He's so explosive off of the line. He reminds me of prime Stefon Diggs. He's going to be a steal to whatever team ultimately ends up drafting him. And if Buffalo does not walk away with a Jalen Royals or an Isaiah Bond, I'd say Kyle Williams is probably my next best fit. I'll be completely honest with you. I have Kyle Williams above Isaiah Bond. I would rather have Kyle Williams than Bond, which says a lot. He's that good of a route runner. His separation is insane. No way he makes 10 picks. Matt saying Elam was man. He was indeed. Billy Bowman Jr., baby. Watch the tape. Dude, listen, he is a solid coverage safety. And that's what we need, is somebody who excels in coverage. We ran man pretty good against the Chiefs up until Benford got hurt. Yep, absolutely. XO put. And do you think there's a chance that Maxwell Hairston drops to 30? He's pretty polarizing, too, on several mock drafts, man. Like, sometimes I'm seeing Maxwell Harrison go at 21, 22. Sometimes I'm seeing him go at 50. So, say that I had to guess, he'd probably be there at 30. And I'd be fine there. Dan, let's show these fools a couple of Kyle Williams highlights. Looks like there's some non-believers in the comments. All right, guys, listen. My goal right here is to make sure that everybody watching this walks away and says, actually, I want Kyle Williams on the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to show you exactly what we're talking about here. Just peep this separation that I'm about to show you. And smash that like button for me as well, because since I'm going to show you this, my video is not going to get demonetized. So smash the like button, folks. Put up that like button right here. All right. This right here is is Kyle Williams. Watch this guy and how crazy he creates separation. It's disgusting. Watch. Significant route runner. Great yards after contact. Let's keep it going. Here he is again. And shout out to this dude for pointing the arrows right here. See? Solid two-step. Crazy separation. Gets his man. Gets his man. Again. Look at that. 4.40, by the way. Great vision. Slept on guy. Look at this. Oh, by the way, he breaks ankles for anybody that attempts to give him press man coverage on the line as well. So if anybody wants to go on ahead and give this man press man coverage, like, rest in peace. Like, rest in peace to what he's able to do. Let's see what else we got here. Hold up. There he is. Watch this. Right up there. Cooked. Done. Separation like crazy. He's that dude. He's that dude. So, look, as many of you know, I'm still very much a Jalen Royals guy, but say that Jalen Royals does not end up falling to the Buffalo Bills. I would very much like a Kyle Williams on this. Team. Bean just needs to take Cook and Benford out for a Chinese buffet. Dude, listen, we're all bonding in this chat about how much we love Chinese buffets the other day. I have still yet to hit a Chinese buffet, but maybe I'm going to have to do it over the weekend. Big Papa Bill just came in and said, we are signing Cook first because Benford will be more expensive. That's an interesting take, and I love it. And scored that touchdown. He did. Dan, I have been saying Keandre Lambert-Smith forever because I am like one of the only Bills fans who thinks that we should take 2 wide receivers, one in the 3rd and or the 4th and one in the 5th/6th. So I look at this team right now. So the Buffalo Bills typically run with 6 wide receivers each and every single year. And right now, I think that we have 5 spots that are already locked down for the 53-man roster, right? It's the obvious ones. It's Shakir, it's Keon Coleman, it's Curtis Samuel, it's Josh Palmer. 4 of those guys locked down. Then you have the kick returner / punt returner, who is either going to be Cordington / Chenault. I think Chenault ultimately ends up winning. So that leaves 1 spot for us. 1 spot. I could definitely see us going in the later rounds, but I do think that we end up going a bit earlier for a prospect too. Can't block. Cook can't block. John Robert, he's coming in. So normally, that is a concern for me typically, but like with Buffalo runs a lot of jumbo package on the offensive line. So us finding a running back that has the blocking capabilities isn't as necessary for us, but that is a normal concern for people who are against James Cook. Of course, you show a highlight of him playing Clemson, my favorite college team. He's cooking out there, man. That's what he does. I will see if I can try. Yes, let's talk about that. Always a naysayer. There is always one. It's pronounced Codrington. Mafia Madness. The pronunciation police. I'm just kidding. Dan, and remember when the real Kyle Williams lined up at football in the playoff clincher against the Dolphins week 17 of 2017 and scored a touchdown? That was a hell of a sign-off for the guy. Kiss Bob, Dan. Kiss Bob? All right. We are definitely drafting a hungry tight end simply because Knox and Kincaid have been booty cheeks. Don't sleep on them yet. Scatabo. Gary wants Scatabo really, really bad. Oh, man. So he's a dog. He really, really is, but I just don't really see us like using an early round pick for a running back. But, I mean, dude, he's a dog. I'm a big fan of the guy. But, I mean, we'll see. Have you looked at Ty Robinson out of Nebraska? I have not, but I'm happy to take a look. Bills need a defense or it will be the same results. Totally get that. And then also, I think I missed a super chat from my guy, Scott, $10. Thank you so much. Will they ever give James his contract extension or are they going to wait until his rookie contract is up? Me personally, I don't want to lose him or Benford. What do you think, Dan? I don't think either of them will receive extensions this year, and I think both of them will play in 2025 on the final year of their rookie deal. And then, of course, seeing how they perform will depend on whether or not that Buffalo wants to give them a new deal in 2026. Say that we don't, then they hit free agency and they go elsewhere. I don't see either of them sitting out because that means that they don't end up earning any money at all this year. So have zero income. And then they're sitting out a full year of football, which would hurt their overall value to whatever team signs them next year. So I don't really think that it makes sense for me. Thank you so much for the super chat, by the way, Scott. You are the man. Susu is saying, I just want to make another donation because I love the AFC East. We are family and we talk our shit together about hating on each other's teams. Susu, I appreciate that. I appreciate the love, man. Sincerely. Guys, listen, all the super chats that we have received today, that I have received today. Thank you so much. A great way of showing love on the channel. But folks, by far the easiest way to show love is just quite simply hitting that thumbs up sign, man. Make it happen. John Robert, I meant Kenneth Grant. Oh, there you go. There you go. Ty Robinson had the fastest 40 time of all D tackles at the combination. He is very slept on. I could definitely see Buffalo going after him. Do you think that the Bills trade Cook for picks in this draft so that they can stay cheap at the running back position? So his cost this year is only $4 million. So I don't necessarily see that being something where they're just like, oh my God, we need to save this money. It just depends on how this mini camp portion comes in, right? What about Nick Nash, Dan? A triple crown winning wide receiver out of San Jose State. Could be a late round gem. I'm going to have to take a look at him, man. I haven't had an opportunity of looking at his tape. Also, Tommy Hunter out of Nebraska picked 6 Sanders off of a pick 6. Damn. A lot of guys I'm going to have to take a look at. I am late, but love the show as always. Marquis, what's going on, man? Happy Monday. Hope all is well. Hope all is well, man. I need an Agent 47 extension, Buffalo era. Man, I feel like all of us want that guy to get his bag. And did you look at Devin Neal, a potential 4th-round pick running back out of the University of Kansas? I like his game a lot, man. Dude, listen, so many draft prospects I obviously need to be paying attention to, but wild stuff. But, folks, thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of Dom Mafia Live. I am live normally twice a day, Monday through Friday. I never miss a day when it comes into posting content, folks, because I am dead set and committed to entertaining you. So do me a favor. If you vibe with that, go on ahead, subscribe to the channel, and turn on bell notifications so you never miss a live edition. And follow me on all social media platforms as well, right? On X, on TikTok, on Instagram, all at Real Dan Mitchell, in case you can't get enough of some fire-hot Buffalo Bills / NFL content on the daily. I will be live on Roundtable Sports 4th and Forever, which is live Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. EST on the Roundtable Sports YouTube channel. And I will be live a little later on this channel again with another topic surrounding our beloved Buffalo Bills. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Smash that like button on your way out. Shout out to William Attar. If you were hurt in a car, you better call William Attar. And we will see you next time. Peace.